and your life.
Good evening and welcome to this North West Area Planning Committee held on the 18th of June, gosh. My name is Councillor Mark Durham and I'm the chairperson for this committee. Members, we are streaming this meeting live as well as recording and by being present in the meeting. You're giving your consent to being recorded during each item. Please raise your hand to indicate if you wish to speak and I'll then invite you at the appropriate time. Can I ask members to avoid approaching the top table as this could create interference with the cameras and live stream. Please note the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of the microphones. Therefore, can I ask that when invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished. Please reference the page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. Item 2, apologies for absence. May I have any apologies, please?
Thank you, Clerk. We've had, Chair, we've had apologies from Councillor Siddle and Councillor Hughes. Thank
you very much indeed. And I must say it's delightful to see Councillor White back in the chamber. Welcome. Item 3, it's recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on, and somebody help me out there. Dates of the last meeting. It can't possibly be the 14th of January. But... Oh, it is. 14th of January. Found on pages 7 to 14. Thank you, Councillor Thompson, for helping out. Can we agree, please, that these are approved as a true and accurate record? I so move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Everybody in agreement? Thank you very much. Item 4, declarations of interest to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests or other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to items of business on the agenda having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. Members, you are also reminded that you're required to disclose any such interest as soon as you become aware should the need arise through the meeting. Any declarations of interest? I see nobody indicating. Thank you very much indeed. Have we had I have got a note of public speakers, which we will get to as we progress. Okay, I understand, Councillor White, we're going to take item 5 first, if that suits you, because then you can get on. So that takes us to item 5 on the agenda. Yes. Councillor White was item number 6. Oh, sorry, Councillor White. We'll take item 6 before item 5. So we'll go straight into agenda item 6, which is just coming to that. Excuse me, I'm having to open about 10 pages all at once here. Page 37. Okay, so this is land at the Brambles, Latchingdon Road, called Norton. Outline application with all matters reserved for the erection of one new number dwelling. Who's taking us through this?
It's myself.
Okay, thank you. Let's have the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as noted, this is an outline application with all matters reserved for the erection of one dwelling at the Brambles, Latchingdon Road, Cold Norton. The application site is an L-shaped plot of land extending to approximately 0.15 hectares on the northern side of Latchingdon Road, outside of any defined settlement boundary and within the open countryside. This section of Latchingdon Road is characterised by ribbon development on both sides of the highway, which you can see on this aerial photograph here. To the west of the site we have the existing residential property at the Brambles, with a number of outbuildings to the rear, which I'll show you on the plan later. To the east of the site lies another residential property known as Homestead, which is approximately 22 metres from the site boundary. As we all know, the site is pretty rural in character, with fields to the north of the site and to the south beyond the houses opposite. This is the approach to the existing dwelling as from Cold Norton. You can see the dwelling itself and the outbuildings to the left-hand side, the boundary treatments to the front. Here's the existing dwelling as viewed from the eastern side. The application site itself, to the right-hand side of the photograph here, is open and undeveloped with a low hedgerow boundary along the front road frontage. Here are the outbuildings to the rear, which I mentioned previously. These are actually outside of the site boundary, the application site boundary itself, are due to be retained. This is the main area of the site to be developed. As you can see, we have some established trees and vegetation to the rear of the site, which are shown at this stage to be retained as part of the scheme, albeit on the indicative plans due to its outline nature. This is the front hedgerow boundary to be retained. Access to the site is currently gained via a shared access to the existing house, which is just out of shot here, but as I move on to the next slide, you can see the indicative block plan which the applicant has submitted as part of the outline scheme. The access will form part of that new access will provide access to the parking for the new dwelling and to the existing dwelling and the outbuildings to the rear, as you can see up here, and has been agreed as being acceptable in principle by Essex County Council Highways, subject to appropriate conditions. But as mentioned a couple of times, this is an application for outline planning permission with all matters reserved. A set of preliminary plans have been submitted which provide us with a good indication of what is going to happen here. At siting scale and the massing of the proposed dwelling, as you can see on this layout, show the way in which it's proposed to be aligned with the existing property at the Brambles, as noted with the shared access and behind the existing hedge line. Whilst we have this slide up, it's probably worth noting as well that officers have not raised any particular concerns with regards to the positioning of the building as shown here, due to its alignment with the existing property, the Brambles, the absence of any windows along this side elevation here, and the separation distance between the residential property to the east at Homestead. Again, indicative only, but we have some elevations here showing the intention to create a chalet-style bungalow, the scale of which is considered to be consistent with other properties along this section of Latchingdon Road. Obviously, the details of the design would be secured through reserve matters, and appropriate conditions are set out within the committee report that you have. Moving now on to the general principles of development. This is a site that is located outside of the settlement boundary. However, in light of the MPPF changes in December last year and the changes to our 5-year housing land supply position, the tilted balance in favour of sustainable development applies. When considering whether or not this site is sustainable, the council is required to take into consideration the recent appeal decision relating to the land adjacent to East Holme, which is approximately 100 metres to the east of this site. As you can see here, this is the application site here. This is land adjacent to East Holme. I was going to say that this was if you could remember this, see if you could remember this application from a few committees ago, but I understand actually this was the last committee that was held in January. So it may be fresher in your minds than I thought. This decision, you may remember, followed on from an appeal decision at the site in which the inspector went into some considerable depth in considering whether or not this site was in a sustainable location or not. And the conclusion was that it is, for a number of reasons. And I've added some annotations to this plan in that respect. We have obviously the close proximity of the Londis supermarket here. We have bus stops either side of the road, either way. We have footpath access up to Cold Norton, which is 500 metres up the road, which provides, as the inspector I think referred to, daytime access in terms of access to the school itself. And the general conclusion was that the site would be considered as a sustainable location in the context of the development plan, and therefore the principle of development should be accepted. In that case, actually, the appeal was dismissed on the grounds, originally dismissed on the grounds of it being overdevelopment. The applicant at the time had proposed 2 much larger dwellings, but subsequently, and for the reasons explained at the committee in January, members resolved to grant planning permission for a single chalet-style dwelling, similar in many ways to what is proposed here at the application site. And clearly, an appeal decision is a significant material consideration in assessing the application here. And given the limited separation between the 2 sites, officers consider that equally this site is in a sustainable location. Just quickly, in terms of other planning matters, obviously we've touched upon the highways response regarding the shared access being considered acceptable. Consultations with ecology and our tree consultant have confirmed that from their perspective the scheme is acceptable in principle, subject obviously to further details being provided at reserve matters stage. And likewise from officers' perspective in terms of looking at the design and how it sits in the local context, although the drawings are indicative, officers feel that the site would be able to accommodate a sensitive infilling of the site that would likely be able to satisfy the council's policies and standards relating to parking, amenity space, internal space standards, residential amenity, etc. Again, subject to details being submitted by way of reserve matters and planning conditions. So, as I say, in summary, we're outside of the boundary, but the 5-year housing land supply means that we need to look at this in a tilted balance sense. The appeal decision that we've discussed identifies this site, this site in close proximity to this, as being a sustainable location, and there's no reason to suggest that this site is any different in that respect. And that we consider that other matters will be able to be addressed by way of the reserve matters, and therefore the recommendation is that members grant planning permission subject to the legal agreement that has been submitted with the application in respect of Ram's contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. We have a speaker. Is it Mr. Otter, the agent? Would you like to come forward, sit in one of the chairs and use the microphone? You will have 2 minutes, and we'll count you down from when you start speaking. 2 minutes is 2 minutes, I'm afraid, and not 2 minutes, 1 second or 2 seconds. So you need to press the button on the microphone, and then we'll start timing you when you start speaking.
Good evening, I'm Mike Otter, the agent for this application. As members will have seen on the location plan, the site does lie within a fairly large group of established dwellings that are on both sides of Latchingdon Road. It is just outside the main built-up area of Cold Norton, but this is an infill plot between existing dwellings. The site mainly forms the side garden of the established dwelling known as Brambles, with the submitted plans showing that the access is shared with that dwelling, but it is an outline application, so all the details are indicative. The site is to all intents and purposes landlocked and therefore subject to a sensitive design at the reserved matters stage. the proposed dwelling would have minimal impact on the nearby countryside. In this respect, the officer report notes that the submitted illustrative design would be acceptable and constitute sensitive infilling. The officer report notes that the site meets the national sustainability objectives, as did the nearby appeal site within the same group of dwellings as the application site that's just a few hundred metres down the road. Consequently, or subsequently to that appeal, as we've heard, the committee did grant approval for one new dwelling at the last committee meeting. The application has been supported by detailed reports addressing immunity, highway ecology and biodiversity considerations, all of which have contributed to the recommendation for approval given by the council's officer. I therefore respectfully request that outline permission be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Otter. Thank you. Members, Councillor White, did you wish to say anything about this particular application? Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Thompson.
I'm seconding that. If that's a proposal from Ms White, then I'll second
It
that.
certainly sounded like one. That's a proposed. Any members wish to ask any questions, make any other comments? Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, it's really a question of sort of information, really. I've noticed you made, through you, Chair, that the officer made a lot of this being outside the defined settlement boundary, and I know the other application, I think, is a similar situation. Are we now saying that that is no longer, under the circumstances that the council finds itself in terms of having no 5-year housing land supply and the changes to the MPPF, that is any more a meaningful criteria upon which to make a judgment?
The position when it comes to settlement boundaries is that obviously we are now in the position where, because of the lack of 5-year housing land supply, we have to assess any proposals that come into the council that are outside of the settlement boundary in respect of the tilted planning balance, which in layman's terms means that we need to prioritise, give substantial weight to the provision of residential, but at the same time that does not that if the harms demonstrably outweigh the benefits of providing that housing, then we can refuse planning permission. In this instance, looking specifically at the locational sustainability issues, it is considered that by virtue of its proximity to services and links to them beyond that, and as mentioned, the reference to the recent appeal decision, that there would be no harm in respect of its location. There are other applications that the council are dealing with at present which do not have those characteristics and do not benefit from those services, and we would deal with those accordingly. But to cut a long story short, go back to your original question, we do have to still consider those. We cannot just rely on the fact that a site is outside the settlement boundary to refuse an application. Is that?
Yes, of course you can.
Just to add to what Matt said, our starting point for determination of planning applications is still the development plan. So the development plan has the settlement boundaries in it, so we still have to make that our starting point. But as Matt has said, what we look at now that the tilted balance is engaged is to whether development outside those settlement boundaries is sustainable development and therefore can be approved under the MPPF. So that's where the conclusion from Matt's report and the one that Chris will be presenting soon is that looking at sustainability in terms of environmental, economic and social sustainability, does it meet those criteria and therefore allow us to approve it? If applications don't meet those criteria, then that's when we look at whether it needs to be refused or whether there are such planning benefits that we could approve it. But just reiterating, the starting point is still the development plan.
Does that answer your question? I think it's fairly comprehensive.
Yep, thank you very much.
Response. Thank you. So in the absence of anybody else wishing to speak. We have a proposal in the name of Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Thompson, to approve this. If everybody's in agreement, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. That permission is granted. We now, with the conditions, everybody happy with the conditions, I'm guessing. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you, Councillor White. A safe journey home. Page 15, so we're back now to agenda item 5, which is 24/00817, South Menage. I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but I stand to be corrected. At Chasefield Farm, 64 Walden House Road, at Great Totham. Mr. Purvis, you're going to take us through this one, I believe.
That's right, thank you, Chairman. So this is a full planning application looking to remove the, come to the next slide actually. To remove the existing menage and construction of a new detached two-storey dwelling with detached cart lodge with a new access formed onto Walden House Road, along with including parking and landscaping on the site. I should add that site plan on the right is wrong, but all the plans, the rest of the presentation are correct, so don't worry about that one. So this is the location plan. So this shows the site and the land belonging to Chasefield Farm in blue, north of the site. So the site's down here in the south part. You'll see the menage that sort of goes across both parts. It has been confirmed by the applicant that they would remove the part in there as in the blue line as well as the red line. But the red line area is where the proposed dwelling is going to be, and this red line shows sort of visibility displays as well. That's why it projects down the road like that. There's an aerial photo, shows it a bit more clearly. There's obviously another menage further north in Chasefield Farm. So this is the southern one here, the larger one that would be removed. And now we have a series of photos from the site. So this is roughly where the vehicle access onto Walden House Road would be formed. So obviously that hedgerow that little hedge there may go, along with some of the boundary treatment to allow for that. And then looking within the site, that's the menage as it exists at present. And then some views up and down the road to give you an idea of the top one there. That's the access is going sort of, if you can see the cursor there, around that arrangement. And this is taken from the other direction, again, looking towards here, so where the vehicle access would be installed. There is an existing vehicle access just further along that does serve Chasefield Farm down that access, but is significantly distant away from where the new access is proposed, and highways don't have any objections to that. A couple more photos of the site. So there's another outbuilding there that's, I think, probably once used for some horses and stables, and then some more views of the road. So note there's a footway along this road, so and again that's an important part of the considerations here in terms of being able to walk to Great Totham, which is using the right photo there. But this site isn't far from Great Totham Primary School, and on the right, so on the left photo, you'll be able to walk to Wickham Bishops. You have to cross the road at the end of the road, but there is a pedestrian walkway on the side of the road, allow for pedestrian access. So a series of plans now to see this development. So this is the black outlines is the locations of or the siting of the proposed dwelling and the siting of the proposed cart lodge. The next plan's a bit clearer, brings it to life more in terms of the landscaping that's shown, hard standings, and the driveway area and the cart lodge with ample parking off street, as well as the parking within the cart lodge as well. And the dwelling would be sited centrally within the site. It is a 4-bedroom dwelling, so it's generous size space. There's no issues there in terms of room sizes and things like that. And the elevations of a traditional sort of design, front gable projection, chimney stacks on the side, and then you've got some solar panels proposed to the roof. And there's a section drawing on the right and a roof plan as well to see that. So it does have a flat roof in the middle, which is often referred to as a crown roof, but the pitch roof's all around it. And there's a street scene photo. Well, it's not a photo, it's a sketch. So this shows the proposed building here. You've got the Chasefield vehicle access there. The road slightly slopes up. There's another property over to the left here. One opposite, obviously can't see that in terms of this perspective. And there's a replacement dwelling that was built a few years ago, just further along the road to the east. This is the cart lodge building. So this shows the 3-bay cart lodge, and there's a store that's associated with that as well. And then just bringing on to the summary of the presentation. So the site is outside the settlement boundary of Great Totham. It lies in a location that is between Great Totham and Wickham Bishops, so it can access both of those in terms of pedestrian access and as well, cycle access. There's also access in terms of nearby bus routes and things like that. So, and that's a big thing we look at in terms of accessibility in terms of the sustainable development considerations as set out in the NPPF. That falls within the environmental consideration. And it's very important we consider that because lots of places within this district are not sustainable, but this site in this location in between these two settlements is considered to be a sustainable location, and therefore, as mentioned in the last presentation, the tilted balance in favour of the development applies. The 5-year housing land supply position as well, because of that. We don't have a 5-year housing land position, so therefore that applies. This would obviously contribute one dwelling to that supply position, but it is considered a sustainable location in the proximity of two larger villages with a range of facilities, services, and as I say, accessible for transport options as well. The principal development is therefore considered acceptable. The design and siting of the dwelling is considered acceptable in relation to the surroundings and in accordance with this Arcadian style landscape that's referred to in the local plan and is recognised in this part of the district. All other material planning considerations have been considered and are considered acceptable. The recommendation is therefore to grant planning permission subject to the applicant entry to Section 106 agreement to secure the Essex Rams financial contribution. We have a draft one of those already at present, and it would be subject to the conditions as set out in the report. That's the recommendation and presentation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Purvis. I understand we have Mr. Rickards, who is the agent. Mr. Rickards, you've seen the score. Pick any seat with a microphone. The 2-minute timer is primed and ready, and we'll start ticking down when you start to speak. Please turn the microphone on. That's it. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. I'm Mark Rickards of Bacchus Design, speaking in support of the proposals on behalf of the applicant. The council can currently only demonstrate 2.7 years of housing land supply, which is well below the required 5 years due to changes in the current NPPF. The principle of development is therefore considered on the basis of whether the proposals located outside of the settlement boundary are sustainable. The site is found to be sustainable, and the presumption in favour of sustainable development therefore applies. The site is located outside of the settlement boundary by only around 170 metres, but it relates well to South Totham and is well located between Wickham Bishops and Great Totham, which are both classed as larger villages. Being located between the aforementioned villages, the site is within safe walking and cycling distance of a large variety of facilities. There is also a bus service. In addition, electric vehicle charging points, solar panels and other measures are to be provided on the site. The development will also make a positive contribution towards the supply of housing, provide employment during construction and support the local economy by residents. Therefore, the site is considered to be in a sustainable location. The proposals are of a high quality design that fully respect the Arcadian nature and local character of the area without negative impact. ECC Highways have no objection to the proposals in terms of access, parking and safety, subject to applying conditions for visibility displays, cycle parking and providing a travel information pack. Therefore, there are no highway issues. The proposals are located far enough away from the existing properties not to cause any harm by overlooking loss of privacy, overshadowing and loss of light. We therefore welcome and fully support your officer's recommendation and respectfully ask that you accept your officer's recommendation and grant planning permission. Many thanks.
Well done, Mr. Rickards. That was clearly practiced as well. Yes, I'm sure. Thank you very much indeed. Members. Yeah, Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question, please. It's quite a big site. At what point do we start saying, hang on, you could get more properties on here? Because I've seen a site in Tollesbury, which initially I think there was a plan put forward to put maybe 2 or 4 houses on, and actually there's 17 properties going on that site. And that first, I don't know if it came to an application, it might have been at the pre-app, but it was pushed back because it wasn't a great use of the land. So I just wondered, you know, it seems like a big site and you could get more properties on there. What the situation is, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, the application before us is just for the one dwelling, and that's obviously what we're considering tonight, and is what we're determining. Obviously, there potentially is more space to get another property on there, or however they want to lay it out. But the application and the applicant's intention is just to go for the one dwelling, which is what we're considering, and that's all we can consider. We can't really discuss an alternative for more dwellings because we don't have that information in front of us. But I'm sure that's something they may want to consider, and we'd have to obviously consider that in regard to this site in the future if it were a separate future planning application. But in terms of this evening's consideration, it's just to consider this one dwelling on this site.
Yeah, Councillor Stevens, I think we know we've established that we can really only determine what's in front of us. We can't second guess what's just around the corner. But did you want to come back on that?
Only to say to developers everywhere, we need more small houses. We don't need more massive big houses like that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Morgan.
Yes, thank you. It's sort of more of an observation. I think you touched on it in the exposition that the Great Totham Primary School is literally about 100 yards down the road from there, which means during term time that road fills up completely with traffic from parents picking up, and in fact, you can see there on that there are double yellow lines all the way up and down that particular road. And that is quite a sort of traffic calming issue. And was that in any form of consideration in terms of your consideration of this particular application?
Well, thank you, Chairman. The application was considered by the County Council Highway Authority in terms of all the highway aspects. They have no objections. They didn't specifically refer to the impact in terms of school and things like that. Obviously, there's drop-offs and pick-up times over a period of time in the morning, usually obviously later in the afternoon. But they've not raised any issues in terms of future obstructions to vehicles using the road or anything like that. The double yellow lines are only on one side of that road, so I can see that potentially there are at school drop-off time. I haven't been to the site at that time, but there's probably vehicles that are parked along there at that point in time. But the visibility displays in terms of the access into this site are considered acceptable from a highways perspective, even if there were vehicles parked along there. So in terms of come back to your question, Highways Authority haven't objected to it in terms of that aspect.
Thank you. In which case, Chair, I propose that we accept the officer's recommendation and approve this.
And looks like it was seconded by Councillor Morley. Thank you, Councillor Morley. So we have a proposal to agree this application from Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Morley. Those in favour, please show. That's unanimous, so that permission is granted. Thank you, members. We now turn to item 7, found on page 63, which is TPO in Tollesbury, and Mr. Bailey is going to take us through this one. Members, draw your attention to the update that has been circulated today. Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. Give me a second. Hopefully a short and sweet one. This is an application to confirm the Tree Preservation Order 0125, which relates to an ash tree within the Tollesbury Conservation Area located to the southern side of East Street, Tollesbury, adjacent to the residential property at number 46, as indicated on the map here. The need for this tree preservation order came about following an application for works to fell the tree received by the council last September as a result of concerns raised by the council's appointed arboricultural consultant. A tree evaluation method for preservation orders was undertaken, scoring the tree highly at 17 out of 25, and therefore resulting in a recommendation that a TPO be served. This was served as a provisional order on the 21st of January earlier this year, and that must now be confirmed within 6 months to become permanent and continue the tree's protection. this aerial photograph shows how prominent the canopy is within the local area. It's visible from a long section of East Street itself, and from views southwards along North Road, and is considered to provide a high level of visual amenity. The arboricultural assessment actually showed it to be in very good condition, free of ill health and major defects, with a well-balanced crown, and it is expected that it can continue to thrive for 20 to 40 years. Here is a photograph of the tree directly opposite, viewed from North Road, and this is a closer photograph showing the relationship with number 46, the garage of number 46 here. In terms of objections, an objection was received in raising concerns in relation to damage to the garage and the pavement, and also potential harms that could result from the growth of the canopy to vehicles passing, utility lines, etc., etc. Those harms can obviously be avoided by works to the tree, which aren't prohibited by the TPO order itself. And in fact, as noted in the members' update, there has been an application by Essex County Council to reduce the crown partially, that has been accepted under the remit of the current TPO that is in place, albeit not permanent at this stage until this evening. The recommendation is, as set out in the report, is that the ash tree makes a positive contribution to the character and appearance of the surrounding area, and that the tempo assessment definitely merits serving a TPO, and we would recommend that officers would recommend that it should be confirmed to prevent the felling of the tree or inappropriate works in the future. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. It's not a massive tree, is it? And it's certainly got some more growing to do, I would guess, but it is quite an attractive tree. I mean, members, any comments? Councillor Stevens, it's on your patch.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that it's actually New Road rather than North Road, but it's just for the record. Otherwise, I would propose that we accept the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. Does confirming the TPO still allow the previously approved works to go ahead? Or have they already taken place?
Previous works that have been granted under the TPO. Yes, so the application that was made by Essex County Council was submitted subsequent to the TPO being served provisionally, and that would still be valid, yes.
Thank you. In that case, propose that we accept the recommendation.
Is there a seconder for that, Councillor Whiffen? Oh, so yes, yes, of course you had. So, it was proposed by Councillor Stevens and seconded by Councillor Thompson. Those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's everybody. So that TPO is granted. Takes us to item 8 on the agenda. Any other items of business the chairperson of the committee decides are urgent? You'll be pleased to hear I have none. So I close this meeting at 8:08. Thank you.